Okay, so today I'm joined by my father, Paul. Today we're going to be talking about Tyson Fury. Is he going to be retiring? And a few other things that we're probably going to get into today. But before we get started, if you don't mind smashing that like button, subscribing to the channel if you're brand new here. We're going to be doing this probably every single day, Dad.
Yeah, we'll take it every day from here on in.
Multiple times a day, potentially, depending on free time and topics and stuff. But, this is the first topic that we both actually want to talk about. Tyson Fury is all over the news at the moment, just beat Dillian Whyte, and maybe Dad's got a lot to say. All right, we talk boxing every single day, so you've come to the right place if you want to talk just boxing. But hey, Dad, I'm just going to fire it to you anyway.
Go for it.
Is Tyson Fury retiring? Open question.
No, he's not.
Okay.
Absolutely not. I just don't think at this point in his life, at this time period of his life, he can't. There's so much money to be made, and yeah, we'll talk about Anthony Joshua, but you know what? It's not all about Anthony Joshua, because you've got a little man called Usyk. He's got the belts. He's the man who's in control at the moment, and there has to be a rematch.
Yeah.
So before there's any talk of Joshua, this fight has to take place. And see who the winner is, and we take it from there. But I don't think Tyson Fury will retire. Personally, I hope he doesn't. He's fantastic for boxing. What do you think?
Well, I've got a few different thought patterns on this whole thing. The first thing that popped into my brain was, it's Tyson Fury. He's always pulling pranks and stuff.
He's a showman, isn't he? He's a showman.
He's a showman. But I also think it's a bit of a sales pitch for his next fight.
Absolutely.
If you think about it, he's getting paid mega bucks anyway, but he's just doubled his paycheck by saying that he's going to be retiring. All of the other people, don't forget, Anthony Joshua, although he's been beat off Usyk and he got beat off that fat kid, what do you call him?
Yeah.
Ruiz.
Andy Ruiz, yeah, Andy Ruiz.
I like Andy Ruiz, but the thing is, right, we've got to be honest. Joshua is still a fair contender. He fights the bigger guys better. Is that fight a dangerous fight for Fury? It is, but he's just doubled his paycheck by saying to people that he's going to retire. That's my personal opinion.
Do you know what? Whichever way you look at it, the fact of the matter is, they both need each other. They are on a collision course, whether people like it or not. They will eventually fight, belts or no belts. Fury's not the type of guy who's going to just look at it and think, well, I'm going to end my boxing career and not have to fight the man he set out to fight.
Well, this is
5 years ago.
This is exactly what I was talking about. If you think about, he's just fought the number one most dangerous power puncher in the heavyweight division in history, right? 3 times, and we can all debate, and I'm sure we're going to get some comments below. You know how I feel about it. I'm guessing you feel pretty similar. I don't care what the first result was. Tyson Fury beat that man 3 times.
Convincingly.
He convincingly beat him 3 times, in my opinion. But he's fought one of the most dangerous punchers in boxing history, the most number 1 ranked, hardest hitting heavyweight puncher of all time. Now, if you think about it logically, right, he's fought him, prepared to fight him 3 times to retire after he's beaten Dillian Whyte, who wasn't a threat. I don't care what anyone says.
Rubbish. It was rubbish.
He didn't pose a threat.
It was rubbish
in that fight whatsoever. So let's talk about Anthony Joshua, how he compares to Deontay Wilder.
Oh, God.
You're not retiring. You're not retiring. If you think about it logically, why is he going to retire now and not fight Anthony Joshua? Tell me that. It's an easy fight as far as I'm concerned. It's easy pickings.
It might not be as easy as we think, because the 2 losses Joshua had prior, Ruiz and Whyte, he's got something to prove. And he's far better than them 2 losses, mind, Anthony Joshua. He's far better than them 2 losses which he allowed. And to be honest, he didn't look right in them fights. And I had to question him. I'm thinking to myself, Does this man want out of boxing? I mean, he's got 300 million pound out. I don't know what.
Yeah, there's something off with him in that fight.
There's something off with the guy, but
just the way his whole demeanour when he was walking to the ring, when he was. There's something going on in his head. He was going in. He's a heavyweight. He was a vicious animal. I think Anthony Joshua when he first started.
He wasn't right, man. You could see it in his eyes.
You think about the Anthony Joshua who boxed Dillian Whyte in his early career. He was a vicious man. His first 10 fights, he was fighting novices, but he was a vicious beast, and he used to get stuck right in.
I'm glad you've made that comment and put it forward, and I'll tell you why. Because he was a different type of fighter. He was hungry. He was looking to knock you out. He was looking to hurt you.
He got the knockouts as well.
And he fought, he won a version of the title off the guy from America who was
that Martin, how do you call him?
He was
had dreadlocks, that dude.
Yeah, the dude, he had a very poor, I think he only had so many fights, didn't he? And then he won Charles Martin, that's a guy.
That's the one.
And he came over and I'm like, he took him apart, and to be honest, Joshua, it's a good point what you've made. It's a very good point, because he looked right. He looked like a heavyweight. He looked like a man on a mission. And then all of a sudden, and it can happen to anybody. And his arse
dropped
out. His arse dropped out against Andy Ruiz. And Ruiz wasn't, I've got to give credit to Ruiz. Ruiz was a fantastic amateur.
Thing is with him, right? His body type gives the false perception of that man, but that guy he's a Mexican for a start. The Mexicans can fight. I don't care what weight division you're in, they can fight. Absolutely. Secondly, he's one of those freaks of nature who, he might be fat, but he can do the 12 rounds still. Even in the rematch, how grotesquely overweight he was. That can't be healthy for you as well. And he did the 12 rounds still. And I just think, you know what, it's one of those things where...
He was never going to be heavyweight champion of the world. Well, I don't know, he had a fight with Joseph Parker prior to this. It was, I don't know, man, it's... Look, these are second-rated heavyweights as far as I'm concerned. Tyson Fury stands out a mile. He stands out a mile, and if you look at Tyson Fury's last fight with Whyte, you'll see it was like a walk in the park for the man. He didn't break a sweat, man. And Dillian Whyte was a type of fighter with Carlos Takam, different fighters, and the different fighters he fought previously to that, he'd obliterated them. Derek Chisora, he speared him down the middle with a hook and drop. He had the potential to, but Tyson Fury's a different kettle of fish. And you said that. You've said this for years. You've said this for years about Tyson Fury. Well, I didn't believe you.
Yeah,
I didn't believe you. You saw something. You said you predicted 3 fights and you predicted the outcome 3 times.
You've just got to look at it logically, man.
I laughed at him.
We like to think of it this. We don't like to give too much. We know Tyson Fury's a big dude, but for some reason he's getting this stigma attached that he's not a hard hitter. You know yourself, you've been around the fighting game long enough to know even if you've got no fighting experience, if you're 6'9" and you want to at least try to cause some damage, you're gonna cause some damage.
Absolutely.
All right, and I don't care who you are. He's a 6'9" giant. How many 6'9" people have you ever witnessed in your life? I don't even think I've seen someone 6'9" in my life. Personally. So
are you talking boxing?
Well, in any way, any sport, any walk of life. You tell me when the last person you've seen who's 6'9" is. He's a freak of nature, and I genuinely believe
good freak of nature.
You can forget about boxing talent and acumen. You look at the beast from the east. What was he? 7'3", 4", something ridiculous. Nikolai Valuev, right?
7'2", 7'1", 7'2".
So let's talk about him for a second to put it into context, right? The man was an absolute monster. What was his boxing ability like? Be brutally honest, mate.
Very, very limited. However,
he was very limited.
However, he wasn't in the beginning. He looked limited, but I think he had. Did he go 40-odd undefeated? 42.
So, look, he was on par to break Rocky Marciano's record, wasn't he?
He was.
He was on route to rather. But if you look at it logically, right, what I'm trying to say is that man was terrible, and he got pretty far. He was a world champion. David Haye obviously beat him, but it wasn't an easy fight for Haye. So if you were that tall, you can become a world champion. He became a world champion, and he was quite poor just because of his size. Now Tyson Fury is similar in stature, but he's fantastic.
Of different.
He's a fantastic talent, Dad. He's one of the best talents we've ever seen in my generation, in my lifetime. So, yes, he needs the fights to go down in history as the greatest heavyweight of all time. Is he en route to it? I think it's an easier fight. Joshua's an easier fight than Deontay Wilder. I generally believe that. I think he's slower. He can hit you like a Shire horse, mind. But I tell you something, right? Anthony Joshua gets beat off Tyson Fury, and then who else does Tyson Fury need to fight before he retires? I mean, he needs to fight whoever wins Usyk and Joshua to get the undisputed. He has to fight for the undisputed title.
I think that Miller's still hovering around, but we're talking about these as just premeditated thoughts of fights that could happen if, when, and where. You know, we've got to... Joshua and Tyson Fury have got to fight.
100%.
They've got to fight. And the spanner in the work is Usyk, because he has got the belts. Is Joshua good enough? Well, yes, he is. He is good enough to take them belts back off him. He was absolutely appalling when he lost them belts.
I don't
to
think
Usyk.
Honestly, this is how
Usyk's good. He's a good fighter, but he's a
tell
little
you
guy,
something,
isn't
right?
He? He's a little guy in a heavyweight division.
The only way Joshua beats Usyk is if he reverts to default. And I'm not talking the default of 1 or 2 years ago. I'm talking when he very first turned pro. Now, many people might be watching this going, you're crazy. Oh, yeah. He got so much better for it. No, I'm talking about his default, his venom and nasty, aggressive, big muscle. Remember the Anthony Joshua who everyone gives stick for being a muscle-bound freak? Remember when he was getting shit for that? That's the Anthony Joshua that beats Usyk. And people might go, nah, he's going to be too nimble for him. But I generally think size and power and his aggressive streak that he has, when he clocks you, he's on you and he's ripping your head to pieces. That's the Anthony Joshua that has a chance. I'm not saying he beats Usyk, but he has a chance.
Right, then where's that Anthony Joshua gone?
Well, I tell you something.
Where's it gone?
In the bank. He's got 100. He's got what has he got?
So
100 million, 200 million in the bank.
Is he's got that much money. He's not wanting to put one foot in front of the other now in case he gets hurt in the ring, and I don't blame him.
I think he'll be hungry for this fight. You know, I think he'd be hungry in this fight. If I remember right, when he fought Usyk, who came off the worst with facial. Damn it! Usyk was pretty badly cut up.
Up a bit.
His face was a mess.
Yeah, but Joshua was bad, man. He was bad.
He was bad, but think of it. He took a lot of superficial damage to his face, Usyk, which means he was getting caught. He was getting caught amidst all of he was crap and this, that, and the other.
So what you were saying is, if he bulked back up and hulked back up and went in and started being this aggressive bull-like fighter he started his career off, then he's got a good chance of stopping him early. I don't know. I personally think, and it's just my opinion, I'll hold my hands up, I think his bottle's gone, Joshua.
No, you might be right. I think his bottle went when he fought Ruiz.
And you know, here we gone. 2 times heavyweight champion of the world if he beats Ruiz. Andy Ruiz went on a pizza binge. Came in at 20 stone.
Yeah.
20 stone. He come into a rematch. So that tells me straight from the off, you're not winning this fight, man. You're not paid. You're not coming into this rematch and winning this fight. He was bloody. So Joshua's getting the titles back. And then he's took a bad fight with Usyk. He should not have. What was Eddie Hearn thinking? Taking this fight, what's he thinking?
He's the money guy, though, isn't he? And obviously you have mandatories and stuff like that. But, you know, getting onto the subject, is Tyson Fury going to retire? I'm going to summarise it real simple for you. look what's going on in Ukraine. Bless the people of that place. We're looking at a warrior
Terrible.
in Usyk, not just in the ring, but on the battleground as well. He's over there fighting for his country, which makes him greater than boxing at this moment in time. That's my personal opinion. But let's just
the heavyweight. Klitschko's is over there doing a bit as well.
Let's just for the sake of this talk. Let's just say it all gets said and done, and he returns home safe and sound. And he ends up fighting for the title at some point this year, right? Let's just say that happens. So, is that going to be soon? Is that going to be back end? I would say at least the back end of the year. If it's going to happen at all, I reckon it's going to be at least next year, to be honest with you. So, Fury can retire for a period of time. He can do what Joshua does and has one fight a year. So he's gone for the next year at least. He's not going to have any fights. The only fight that he's going to come back for is the winner of Usyk and Joshua. So is he retired right now? He's gonna pretend he's retired for the foreseeable. But I tell you something, whoever wins that fight, he's coming out. Well, he's not coming out of retirement because he's going to lay low. I think obviously the WBC will make him fight with mandatories and stuff like that. But I reckon everyone wants to see that fight for the undisputed, and hopefully, I hope that Fury's next fight is closer to that. But is he going to lay low for a few months? I definitely think he's going to lay low on that retirement thing. But he's not retiring. He cannot.
No. I'll go on again. Would you like to see him retire? I'll ask you that question. I know what you've said. No, there's another couple of fights in him, but there is only another couple of fights.
Listen,
in the man.
if he was going to logically retire, think of it this way: if that man was going to retire based on logic and dangerous opponents and getting damaged, and towards the end of his alleged career, the alleged end of his career, he should have retired after the first Wilder fight. Really, what a dangerous fight that was, and then to fight him another 2 times. So let's forget about. Look, he's already fought the most dangerous dude. Anthony Joshua doesn't pose the same threats, so he can lay low, and he can come back.
I don't know, man. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. This is one of them fights where Joshua could, like what you said earlier on, could be right up for this, behind the scenes, train like a demon, But how do you beat Tyson Fury? How do you beat him? You tell me how you beat that man.
Look, if there's anyone close to showing you how to beat him, you've got to go to war. But that's a man who's prepared to carry his cross more than anyone else. Tyson Fury is a gifted man. How he can't even he hammered him to the floor, Deontay Wilder. I don't know how to this day. We seen something miraculous that night when he put him down to the floor. That first and second fight was phenomenal, and the third one was even greater.
You don't normally get that in boxing.
3 times,
in
Dad.
Trilogies. You don't normally. Yes, you see the first couple of good fights, the first
and
two,
then it tapers off.
But the trilogy is kind of weak. But this time,
I would say it's the strongest trilogy in heavyweight history.
Yeah.
You give me a stronger trilogy.
Well, no.
You couldn't even say.
You could have said Bo and Holyfield
for excitement, yes.
But look at the fact. The third fight, Deontay Wilder produced. That was the best performance I've ever seen. Wilder.
I have to agree.
This man's heart was. I don't know where. He must have thought, right, okay, we're having this third fight and I'm going to fight you to the death. And that's what that man did.
I'll tell you something, give him his credit. I don't like Deontay Wilder as a human anymore. I think some of the things he said in the build-up, no fighter should say that. I think it's a gentleman's sport.
You're not hurt anybody.
We're not talking about UFC or anything else. We're talking about boxing, pugilism, the fine art, all right, of using your fists in combat. It's always been, it started from the gentleman. It's a gentleman's sport, and it has to remain that way. Otherwise, it turns thuggish. Boxing's bad enough as it is, man. You don't wish any kind of severe damage on anyone in a boxing fight, and you know something, that's why I don't like him as a person. But I have to take my hat off to that man. That third fight, he did exactly what he said he was going to do, knowing just what the first 2 fights give him as well. He knew he was fighting someone great.
It tells you, and it told you when you watched the fight, that he was prepared to die in that ring.
And I believed him when I seen the fight. I went, you know what, this is a guy.
And he damn well he could have, because that, when Tyson Fury finished him off, he poleaxed him in the 10th round and dropped him. I thought
phenomenal.
But do we really, as boxing people, really want to see that kind of outcome? Because I certainly don't. Absolutely not.
I tell you something, mind. What a performance by both men. But this is the thing that makes me think that them fights are horrific. They're fantastically entertaining, but damaging on the body. Tyson Fury, he could face any other heavyweight. The next 5-10 fights on this planet he could have with anyone else. I generally don't think, just through his size and stature, that anyone poses the same threats as what Deontay Wilder did. I'm not being funny when I say this. Deontay Wilder, if you were to say to me, there's a boxer on this planet who is quite capable of killing you in the ring, it's Deontay Wilder. You better believe that dude can kill you. He's 6 foot. Was he 6'6" himself? That is nearly Tyson Fury's height, man. People forget that this dude is.
And he hits 10 times harder.
He's a demon puncher.
He hits 10 times harder. He's the hardest hitting and he's the hardest hitting heavyweight of all time.
Without question, his stats do prove that, though.
Whiplash and bombs. That is, God, I wouldn't even face this man. Would you go, if you were a boxing man and you were like...
Tyson Fury fought him 3 times, man.
He fought him 3
so,
times.
So you tell me he's going to retire. Listen, he's not going to retire. He might be saying it. He's doubled his wages up.
He's milking the situation.
I think he's been
advised. He certainly
advised.
Deserves to milk the situation.
I agree.
But... And I keep saying it, and you know what? I've heard Tyson say this of himself more and more as of late, about how great he is, and he's the greatest heavyweight. And I know that man on that picture behind you, he said it, and that was his bit. I am the greatest, and that was his elusive lip. That's what he was known for, Ali. But Tyson Fury, he hasn't fought the caliber opponents as some of the latter day heavyweights. Honestly, I've said this. I agree. I've spoken to you many times about the same thing.
Look, as his backstory, we all know Tyson Fury's backstory. He's got, if he wants to be, I'm not going to say, let's forget about the greatest heavyweight of all time. That's a tremendous title, right? Let's just look at the greatest fighter of his generation, or even the generation before, who it's arguably, although I don't like him over many boxers, the greatest heavyweight champion of the generation before this. Has to be Lennox. We're talking about Lennox Lewis, aren't we?
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I'm honestly glad you mentioned that, because...
So is he better than... So here we go. If he has another 3 or 4 fights and gets undisputed, the first 4 belt undisputed, by the way, not the 3 belt division, 3 belts, the first 4 belt undisputed heavyweight champion.
If you were caught up in the boxing hype, like most of the young people are, and like I was when I was in my 20s and 30s, I was caught up in the hype. The hype can shadow, put the mist across your eyes, because you're looking at one fight all the time. Hype. And I think, as great as Tyson Fury is, I think he's still 4 or 5 fights, big fights, good fights away from being classed as anywhere near like Lennox Lewis. I'm sorry, but I'll tell you the truth.
I can definitely see the argument. I mean, I would say he needs 4 or 5 fights. Yeah, I mean, it's tough.
The caliber of opponents Tyson Fury's faced thus far, and bearing in mind, I know they're saying, this, that and the other, and Joshua fought Klitschko, and Klitschko was finished 40-odd-year-old, but he was an old man when Tyson Fury took the title off him. He was 40 years old, right? Yeah, so Tyson Fury can't really say this, that and the other about that, and I'll be veering off the subject a little bit. But like Joshua has had some, dare I say this? I think Joshua's had the harder running than other than Deontay Wilder. Joshua's had a pretty hard running as well. I know he's fought.
I tell you something. I'm going to throw this out. I know he's got to fight Usyk first, and everyone wants to see the undisputed go to. A lot of people want to see Fury fight for undisputed, but I wish there was a way. I wish there was a way before whatever happens before Fury fights Joshua. I want to see Joshua have a trilogy with Deontay Wilder first, and then see what it's like. You know what it's like coming off the back of hard fights. We seen Sugar Ray Leonard do the exact same thing with a man we all know called Marvin Hagler. And Marvin Hagler was a short guy when he fought him again, because of the people who he'd fought previous, should I say.
You're absolutely right.
So let's see.
Hagler's running was...
Let's see
horrific.
Joshua fight Deontay Wilder 3 times off the back within a year and a half, 2 years.
He couldn't do it.
He's not happening. So let's
I tell you why he couldn't do it. It wouldn't be allowed. He wouldn't dare go in the same ring as that man. This fight was supposed to have happened 5 years ago, Deontay Wilder, and it was all, this one doesn't want to fight and he doesn't want to fight him.
Joshua didn't want to fight him.
There was £50 million put on the table by Bob Arum.
He doesn't want to fight him.
That money was on the table.
I tell you something. He still doesn't want to fight him, because he's still, in my opinion, the most dangerous fighter on the planet. He doesn't beat Tyson Fury in 100 fights, but I'm telling you now, he beats everyone else on the planet convincingly. Knocks them out.
Well,
he knocks every one of them out. What would he have done with Dillian Whyte? Tyson Fury was toying with him, but I tell you something, Dillian Whyte wouldn't have lasted a damn round with Deontay Wilder.
No.
After what he's given, he'd have come in venomous. I'm telling you now. But anyway, swaying off the topic slightly, I'm going to give the final thoughts to you. So I'll ask the question again. Summarise, final thoughts. Is Tyson Fury retiring?
Absolutely not. 100%.
Absolutely not. Well, troops, you heard it here on the channel. My verdict as well. I don't think he is retiring. Dad doesn't think he's retiring. But what we want to know from you guys is, what do you think? Let us know in the comments. Thanks for watching our first ever video on the channel. Troops, like, share and subscribe. We'll see you very soon.
Thanks all.